Hello, everybody, and we're back for another Apex card. I want to say this is UFC Vegas 86. For our purposes on this podcast, I will be referring to it as UFC Hermansson versus Pyfer because I think that probably actually is a more useful statement. I do want to go through a couple of things that are like not card related here, so bear with me for, a minute or so. Number one, I do actually want to apologize to anyone who was involved in the whole Twitter conversation between myself and some other people, including UFC fighter Sadiq Youssef. I quoted some bad numbers for a UFC 293, the Australia card. We were talking about Charlie Radke's pay, and I was like, Australia does disclosures. I can look that up. I can Google that. I pulled up an unreliable source, one that I wouldn't touch for a card with non-disclosure. But I'm like, there's disclosure. There's got to be accuracy here. There isn't. I still think that probably the number is not far off, but I don't have the number, whatever. But I think my original point, and the point I was trying to make in that conversation, which is that the whole pay me for an interview or pay me UFC, whichever he meant in that conversation, wasn't handled properly. Because it was a chance to build up a fight, hype up a fight, or frankly, say something dumb and get the alt-right fan base really, really riled up for Charlie Radke, because they are. They love that guy. And he's a good talker. And he didn't. So, my point is that regardless of who he wanted to pay him, he's not going to get paid. Or to be clear, he's not going to get paid any more than he would have. If someone was willing to pay him for an interview before this, they're still willing to do it now, but they were willing to do it before. And as far as the fight is concerned, as far as the UFC, as far as the fight purse, he's 2-0. He has no real leverage. He's unranked. His biggest win is Gilbert Urbina. He's on contract. Whatever the number is, there is a third fight on his contract that has a monetary value. It is whatever it is on a 10K to 30K scale. Whatever it is, it's there. It's in black and white. It's in ink. And that's what he'll fight for. The other things I wanted to talk about real quick. A lot of people are like, I don't know, having a weird thing with this Alexander Volkanovski thing where he's talking about, before the fight with Islam Makhachev, the rematch, he's talking about being in the best shape of his life or whatever. And now he's basically saying, no, I was not in a good place. I was coming off the couch. I was having some depression issues and so on. And people are like, well, whoa, changing the narrative. And it's like, yeah, it is. But like, this is pretty standard for MMA. Combat sports in general. Fighters will hype up, one, the fight to try to get as much of a pay-per-view buy rate as possible. And two, they will inevitably hype themselves up to make them feel better, to get them ready, to get them, feeling good. I am up for this. I am up for this. That little back injury I've got, not a problem. That little tweak in my ankle, not a problem. That little knee injury, not a problem. We're going to go out there. And then you go out there and you lose the way he did. And you kind of realize, you know what? Probably wasn't ready. Now that I don't have the financial incentive to hype the fight, now that I don't have the financial incentive to go out there, I realize this was a mistake. And that's all it is. It's pretty normal. It's pretty standard. And it leads into the Colby Covington thing, because Colby Covington kind of doing the same thing. Like originally when he lost, he was talking about woke judges. Now it's I had a broken foot before the fight. I had a broken foot during the fight. Whatever it is. Whatever story he's currently going with. Here's the thing. People are like trying to say, well, we probably didn't have the broken foot. You know what? I'm willing to buy. I'm willing to be charitable and say that Colby Covington broke the foot at some point. I'm willing to bet that the x-ray is, real. Here's the thing. He's asking for a title shot, basically, again. I'm going to go over the number of failed challengers who got an immediate rematch for the title. Their next fight was for the title. It's happened 4 times in UFC history. You ready for this? Pedro Hizo in 2001 against Randy Couture. George Masvidal in 2021 against Kamaru Usman. Kind of. There was a title defense in between there, but I'm willing to count it. Gray Maynard in 2011 because he drew with Frankie Edgar. Alexander Volkanovski in 2023, which we just talked about. coming off the couch, short notice because Charles Oliveira pulled out, and they didn't want to do Gamrot versus Makhachev. So 4 times. 4 times in 22 years. Happens once every 5.5 years, basically. Actually, less than that, because to be clear, the last 2 times it's happened has been within the last 3 years. There were 10 years between Hizzo and Maynard, and 10 years between Maynard and Masvidal. So it's like a once a decade type thing. And you want a rematch of a fight that was boring, definitive, probably would be boring again, because this is the thing. I don't believe the fight actually goes any differently. Because I believe that the problem for Colby Covington is he is John Fitch 2.0. He is in certain ways better, because he's probably actually a better wrestler than Fitch. Probably a better athlete. Fitch was notably not a good athlete. Doesn't have the heart, though. Because if you look at John Fitch's career, going back to like his fight with, the first fight I ever saw him one was at Freedom Fight, Jeff Jocelyn. I saw this fight live. And I was pretty sure that the ref was on the payroll. Because Jocelyn went out there and he beat up John Fitch. John Fitch called a timeout at one point. It was that bad. And he just kept being the same guy after that. Even after GSP jabbed his face off, he was the same guy. Colby Covington comes face to face with his own mortality via the Kamaru Usman fights and tries to become something different. He doesn't have it in him. Doesn't have it in him. That's why I won't pick him to win a fight, period. I wouldn't be surprised if there are welterweights on the roster that Colby Covington could beat. I wouldn't pick him to beat them, though. Pick him to win. Because I think he's dysfunctional at this point. And done. It would take another dysfunctional and like lost fighter for me to pick him. And that's why he shouldn't get a title shot. That's it. It's not he's not injured or he's changed his story or whatever. No. That's standard. That's kind of what Volkanovski's doing. It's just the fight is not interesting and there is no grounds for a rematch. There you go. Let's get on to the fights, but before I do that, I do always want to do this. I talk about gambling on this podcast. I'm going to talk about odds. I'm going to talk about who I'm going to bet on. I'm going to talk about breaking down a fight in a way that makes sense. I am going to even suggest, if you bet on these fights, who to bet on. Something I do always want to bring up, though. Do not bet what you cannot lose, because this is MMA. You will lose. Some of the most unlikely outcomes happen. There is the small gloves, the dynamic nature of the sport. There is a lot of problems. Matt Serra knocked out GSP. In no world does that make sense. But it happened. Anyways, let's get on to the fights. Jack Hermansson versus Joe Pyfer. I hate this main event. Not because it's a bad fight. I actually don't mind the fight. Like, in the cage, I don't mind this fight. I just hate the outside the cage stuff, because like the Joe Pyfer hype train it has left the station and it is on the way. He's the most powerful fighter ever. You know that? He scored higher than Francis Ngannou on that punch machine. No, he's a middleweight. The hardest puncher in the world is a heavyweight. That's all there is to it. We can maybe get into like a pound for pound thing or whatever. I don't know. But like, it's a heavyweight. Does this mean that he doesn't hit harder than any heavyweights? No, there are some pillow-fisted heavyweights. Pyfer probably hits much harder than them, and he does hit very, very hard, but it's bullcrap. Joe Pyfer's run has been really good. I mean, the Razak Al Hassan fight was chef's kiss. The arm triangle preservation, the willingness to go to a grappling game, and how easily he was able to take Razak Al Hassan off his feet. That was a masterpiece of it. And like, it won me over. Because like, coming into that fight, I was kind of like, do I think Joe Pyfer is really any good? That was the moment. That was like, wow, this guy is good. It wasn't the Gerald Meerschaert fight. It was sure as heck wasn't the Alan Amidovsky fight. But Jack Hermansson's a big step up. Massive step up. Jack Hermansson is a guy who works behind a jab well, as long as he's not fighting a southpaw. And to my knowledge, Pyfer is not one. He is a good grappler. He is a good wrestler. He has moments of very, very good fight IQ. Like, he just completely defeated Chris Curtis by game plan. Ripped up Kelvin Gastelum, beat Jacare. Like, great stuff. 35 years old. He's getting a little bit old. He's had some rough times lately. Probably why he's in here against Joe Pyfer. They want him to win. They want Joe Pyfer to go out there and look good. I think I have to go with Joe Pyfer. I think I have to say that he does look good because there are some physical limitations to Jack Hermansson. He's just never been a fantastically good athlete. There's nothing physically about him that is amazing. He's reasonably tall, 77.5-inch reach, 6'1". He'll have 2.5-inch reach advantage here if you're interested. But there's never been a thing about it. Like, it's not super, he's not super explosive, super powerful, super anything. Like, you watch the Roman Dolidze fight, and Dolidze's just kind of like bullying him. And we very recently got a reminder that Roman Dolidze in his fight against Nasruddin Imavov, not actually all that great. Not a lot of nuance to him. Not a lot of takedown game to him. But like, Hermansson was constantly in trouble throughout that fight until he got finished by a really neat like calf slicer, back control, ground and pound sequence. Very cool. I do have to go with Pyfer. There are just some X factors that go with Pyfer's way, but it is a big step up. Like, this is a massive step up. Beating Razak Al-Hassan, Gerald Meerschaert, Alan Amedovski, that does not indicate that you can beat Jack Hermansson. Because it's not like you're jumping up 5 spots. You're jumping up like, I don't know, 10, 15 spots maybe? I don't know in terms of this division. But I do think Pyfer will get the TKO. I think Hermansson's durability was never the greatest, and it's going downhill. I think he's getting older, obviously. And I do think Pyfer's putting some things together. Do I think he'll ever be as good as like Dana White wants him to be, or that the Pyfer fans want him to be? No. Actually, don't even think he'll be well, you know what? I can't say that, because honestly, if you told me like 2 years ago that Sean Strickland was going to be a champion and that DDP was going to be a champion, and they are in this division, I wouldn't have believed you. So I guess I shouldn't say we're not going to be champion, but like, if he is champion, it's because middleweight is what it is. It is the mid division. I've got Pyfer by TKO. He is a favorite, minus 258 to minus 280. Hermansson is plus 200 to plus 220. I'm staying away from it. I'm not betting on it. Simply put, Pyfer is a bit too much of a favorite for me to feel comfortable putting money on him. But Hermansson's not a big enough underdog that I want to take the flyer on him, because I do think he's going to lose. Andre Fili versus Dan Ige. This is going to be a really, really good fight, but I don't actually have a lot to say about it. Like, it actually, like, for comparison purposes, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 lines of notes for the main event. I've only got 6 for this one, so like roughly half. I wonder, actually, can I get a word count? I can't get a word count. not on Notepad++. It's got lines. It's got characters. Hang on. Let's see here. What are the characters? 16, 14, 40 versus 8. Yeah, it's about half. It's about half in terms of characters. Anyways, not that it matters, but anyways, rolling on. Andre Fili is the taller fighter. He's got the better range game, but like at 5'7", Dan Ige is no stranger to reach disadvantages and height disadvantages. Like for a featherweight, he's quite short. He fights his way into the pocket pretty well. It's not like Fili like fights long very well. He just has a longer range, and he will throw from that range, but there's no real keeping it there. There's no resetting, because a big part of Fili's game is he also likes to shoot. He likes to counter wrestle. He likes to not counter wrestle, but like use wrestling as a counter. Like you come into my pocket. You want to swing and bang? Sure, whatever. I'm going to change levels, put you on your back. It's not easy to do that, Ige. Like, it's not that you can't out wrestle Dan Ige. You can. Like, if we pull up his record, there are examples of this. Mozar Evelev, Bryce Mitchell, Josh Emmett. These are guys that have done that. But these are guys that are like a step above Andre Fili. Bryce Mitchell's kind of similar, but like even the Mitchell fight, like arguably he won. And Mitchell's like a more sticky grappler than Fili is. Evil far better. And then Emmett is, from the same gym, probably has the same game plan, but like Emmett has a physicality that Fili cannot hope to replicate. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm going to take Dan Ige to win this fight. The way he usually does, it's going to be close. It's going to be by decision. He's going to land the slightly better stuff. He's going to be the slightly better pocket striker. He's probably going to get taken down, but he's probably going to get back up at some point. He may even end up on top of Fili at various points. It is going to be a fun fight that brings up everything and probably has some big moments. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. Ige's a minus 170 to minus 185 favorite. Fili's plus 140 to plus 150. I'd be willing to bet on Ige at those odds. I'm not immediately going to do it, but there's potential. 185 fight, Ior Potieria versus Robert Brzyk, I think is how it's pronounced. I was watching a lot of his fights. I'm picking Brzyk by TKO. What I like about Brzyk is he does seem to have like really, really good power for 185. He's got good size. I couldn't get a reach measurement on him. He's probably got a shorter reach than the 75 inches brought to the table by Potieria because he's 6'3", coming down from 205. I'm not sure that this coming down from 205 does anything for Potieria, realistically speaking. He'll be better because like part of his problem at 205 was just getting bullied. Like it wasn't a speed thing or necessarily anything like that or a technical thing. It was just Bellato, Nick Negamarianu, Carlos Ulberg just outclassed him. But like the other two losses, it was guys who were able to just kind of march in and just kind of bully him and like make the clinch their friend. Theoretically, he'll be better at that being the bigger guy at 185. But I don't think it fixes the honest to God problem that like there's only one range he's comfortable fighting at. He's comfortable at fighting at long range and that's it. I don't think he really has the tools to maintain that either. Like there are some nice counters he likes to throw in. There's some nice nuance, some nice handwork. It's not that there's nothing there. It's that he's very one-trick pony and not necessarily a great athlete. Brzyk does seem like he is actually a really good athlete. He's a can crusher. His biggest win is Lee Chadwick, and if you're familiar with Lee Chadwick, you know what that means. But like he is a good pressure fighter. He is a good guy at finding range. He's not just gonna sit on the outside with Potieria, especially with the 6'3" frame. He's going to march him down. He's going to throw to the body. He's going to throw to the head. His defense is not very good at all. But he seems to have a chin that makes up for it. And I got Brzyk winning by TKO, like I said, because neither of these guys really strike me as guys who can grapple. Like it's going to be sort of a sloppy kickboxing fight, and Brzyk's got more firepower to it, and also is comfortable walking someone down. I think if you're comfortable walking someone down, you can probably beat Ior Potieria, as long as you can eat a little bit in return. Brzyk is the favorite at minus 165 to minus 190. Potieria is plus 132 to plus 155. I'm staying away from it. I don't have a lot of faith in Brzyk, honestly. He's absolutely not at a position I would bet on him at minus odds. And I have no faith in Potieria, pardon me. And so just because he's the underdog doesn't mean I'm going to take a flyer on it. Like I could see him winning. I could see him just being too tall, too long, but no. I'm not picking it. I'm not betting it. 185 again. By the way, this is 3 185-pound fights in the top 4. What is with this weight class getting so much attention right now? It's terrible. It's my weight class. It's terrible. Not right now. I'm a heavyweight right now. I'm 251. Weighed myself the other day. It's not pretty. Anyways, Brad Tavares versus Gregory Rodrigues. It's so weird thinking that Tavares is the older guy here. 5 years older. Rodrigues, Hobocop looks just ancient. And Tavares still has that youthful exuberance despite being 36 years old. How does he do it? What is his secret? I must know. Go with Rodrigues by TKO. Like, is there a way Tavares wins this fight? Absolutely. There's a way anyone beats Rodrigues, which is the fact that Hobocop is, how do I put this gently? A mess defensively. He is forward aggression, no real defense, overly aggressive as a grappler, will give up position, will give up scrambles. But Tavares, outside of beating Chris Weidman, has looked really, really sad. Like, he just looks kind of broken. He looks like he's not enjoying the fight anymore. And he's a guy who's not really a knockout artist. He's not really some kind of great grappler necessarily. I think he will probably have, a fair amount of success on the feet. Don't get me wrong. Rodrigues is not anyone's idea of like a really, really good striker. But I just kind of see Rodrigues constantly probably being able to walk him down and just be bigger, because like he is actually quite huge. He's 6'3", 75 inches at middleweight. That's quite large. Get the takedowns when he needs them. Get on top position, punish him, probably at some point TKO him, because Tavares' durability seems to be heading downhill. It'll be fun, I guess. It'll be like a fun, sloppy fight. Like, I guess that's what I would give to like all three of these middleweight fights. They're reasonably fun, but they are just like really sloppy. Rodrigues is too big of a favorite to bet on. -238 to -250. Tavares +190 to +205. I'm staying away from it. Michael Johnson versus Darrius Flowers in a 155 belt. This is another weight class change. Flowers coming down from 170, where admittedly he was tiny. Dude is 5'9". What were you doing there? We're going to be talking about another 5'9" guy later, but it's Jeremiah Wells, and Jeremiah Wells is built like a dumpster. He is a dumpster come to life. Darrius Flowers, big dude, don't get me wrong, big wide shoulders, big chest, but not to that level. If we ever get them side by side, you'll see what I mean. Michael Johnson has had such a weird career, in the sense that somehow at 37 years old, he still seems dangerous. Like, he still seems athletic. He still seems fast. He still seems powerful. He still seems accurate. Still seems nuanced. Still actually fairly durable. But 4-11 in his last 15 after beating Dustin Poirier. Looked like he was going places then. Huh? I mean, I know that was back in 2016, but like it felt like he was going places. But I have to say, every one of those 11 losses are against better fighters than Flowers. That's the big thing, is like Michael Johnson's issue is that making him grapple persistently. It's not that he's a bad grappler. It's that he has no interest in doing it repetitively. And he ends up getting like submitted, or ends up in bad positions, ends up getting controlled by people he really probably shouldn't. Like, because like he's a pretty, like, again, pretty good wrestler, pretty good grappler. But he'll just end up in bad places. But like Flowers doesn't really grapple. Like, he does like to slam people down, and like, you kind of use the takedown as an extension of his like pursuit of the knockout. But it's not persistent, and I don't think that'll work at all. Like, Flowers is a fun action fighter. It's all aggressive. He will go to the body. He will hit you really, really, really hard. There will be some stiff bodies on the canvas by the time he's done his UFC run. But there's going to be a lot of losses because there's some cardio issues there. Maybe going down to 180, 155 will help him with that. The advantages of like good strength and conditioning and good nutrition. But I still feel like he'll probably be the guy who gets known for getting kicked in the balls and having DC and Rogan go on a diatribe about how it was clean, because the ball of the foot, the toes and the ball of the foot hit him in the gut when he very clearly took a heel to the balls. But anyways, I do have to go with Michael Johnson to win a decision here. Flowers fades late. Johnson also can fade late, but like usually not against people who fade late. And just the slicker, cleaner striker, but like at the same time, he is 37 years old. So there is always that problem that could rear its ugly head. I'm staying away from betting on Michael Johnson fights for the rest of eternity. He is the favorite at -125 to -143. Flowers +105 to +120. Not a big enough underdog to go with. Rodolfo Vieira versus Armen Petrosyan, the classic striker versus grappler, the world champion BJJ guy against, I think at some point, a world champion kickboxer, although not the like proper one. Sorry, I hit the mic there. Not the proper, one. if you know, it's the problem with kickboxing. Their world titles are a little too common. Anyways, I've got to take Rodolfo Vieira. The reason is that if you look at the two matchups that I think this most closely resembles, it's Petrosian's victory over Robocop Rodrigues, but Robocop is too aggressive. He would get to dominant positions and then give them up. And then Petrosian would get up and do his thing. By the way, Petrosian, 71-inch reach at 6'3", bizarrely short. And then the Caio Bahaio fight, where Caio Bahaio was just like, you know what? I don't actually have a hard time taking you down. And if I just don't let you up, you won't really get up. And Vieira is a nice middle ground between those two. He has the control game of Caio Bahaio. He has the danger of Gregory Rodrigues without actually going ham. He's not going to be over-aggressive and give up scrambles the same way that Rodrigues did. And he's not going to be as dull as Bahaio. So I'm hoping he submits Armen Petrosian. I'll probably put a little money on him because he's only minus 115 to minus 125. And you got plus 100 to minus 105 for Petrosian. Smallest underdog on the card, I'm pretty sure. Carlos Pratis versus Trevin Giles, a fight that I am staying away from. I like a lot about Pratis, but there is a serious limitation to him. Dude is tall for the weight class, 78-inch reach. He has the longest reach of anybody on this card. There are guys 2 weight classes larger than him on this card. I like him as a front foot striker, very aggressive, goes to the body, love the body. I love the body. Vicious leg kicks, good combination work, works behind the jab, can fight pretty tall as well when he needs to, and long when he needs to. But he can just be bullied in the clinch. Like he's 6'1", so I don't want to say he's small for the weight class because my personal take is that if you're over 6 feet tall, you shouldn't be cutting to lightweight. So there you go. But he is small. He is very rail thin at the weight class. A lot of the guys he's fought have been much, much thicker, clearly much heavier. And when they clinch with him, they just put him down. And Trevin Giles is a former 185er. There is that possibility here. I'm not picking it though. Trevin Giles wants to be a slickster. He really wants to be a slickster. To the point where he lost a clinch battle to James Krause. That's not good. He's a reasonably good athlete. He somehow won the fight with Krause, by the way. To clear that up, he won the fight with Krause, but I don't agree that he should have, and he lost the grappling exchanges quite badly. His grappling has generally been a liability throughout his UFC run. Here's the thing. He relies upon being kind of faster than you for his defense to work. I don't think he'll be faster. I think ironically, his game here would be to be the power bully. And that's not a role that he embraces or likes to play. So I think Pratis will probably get the front foot against him, probably be able to work the body, work the head, work the legs, and just eventually TKO him. Giles has been TKO'd a couple of times. He's not especially durable. If I pull up his record here, you've got knockout losses to Michael Morales. You got a knockout loss to DDP. You've got a knockout loss. Okay, it's actually just those two. And then a couple of guillotine losses to Gabriel Bonfim, Gerald Mershart, Zach Cummins. I know I'm kind of reaching because Carlos Pratis does not feel as good as any of those guys I just mentioned. It's just the way you beat Pratis is a way that Giles actively avoids fighting or not actively avoids, but he doesn't chase it. If it comes to him, he'll fight it, but he doesn't bring it to you. And that seems kind of perfect. That being said, I will say Pratis at minus 250 to minus 286 is way too wide. If you're betting on this fight, you probably should go with the underdog, Trevin Giles, plus 200, plus 210. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pull that trigger, but that's the line I would have actual interest in. Timothy, oh man, I was watching his fights and I should have written down a pronunciation guide for his name. Cuamba? Anyways, Twilight taking on Bolaji Oki. a Belgian fighter. This is a late notice replacement fight. It was supposed to be Oki versus Damir Hadzovic, the Bosnian bomber, which is weird because I'd completely forgot that he was still fighting. I like both of these guys. I actually really do. Cuamba's got like a nice combination striking game going there. He has some slick counters. I like his head movement. I like his active defense. I have no idea why he didn't get signed off of beating Matteo Vogel on Contender. I think he beat Vogel. Someone on this card beat Matteo Vogel on the Contender Series, and I'm blanking if it's Cuamba or not now. It was him, and then he went and beat Michael Stack on the regional scene. I do have some questions about how good of an athlete he really is, because there are just like there's no wow. It's like you're doing everything kind of correctly, but like there is a certain athletic style you're trying to be, and I'm just a little bit worried about it. Also, you're coming up to 155. You're 5'9". You're not really built for this weight class. You're fighting a 5'10" guy who is a really good athlete in Oki. I am worried. He has a pretty good counter. He has a pretty good counter shot game. Like his double leg against, it wasn't Michael Stack. It was the fight before he got on Contender Series. He was making use of like this counter double leg really, really well. When the guy would pressure him, he would just like duck under, put him down. Very nice. I hope to see it in this fight. But his ground game lacks venom. Like he doesn't get to dominant positions to throw strikes, except against Michael Stack, who is not Michael Stack. There is one ground and pound stoppage against a guy who just had no idea what he's doing on the ground. But like aside from that, it's just a safety blanket. Oki I like less. He's had a weird career. He went from beating a 13-0 guy to fighting an 18-13 guy or 8-13 guy in the same promotion. It's very weird. He comes from an underdeveloped regional scene in Belgium, but he does have a lot of wow factors. There's a lot of quickness. There's a lot of explosiveness. There's a lot of power. He ticks all of those physical boxes. I like his striking offense. Like Cuamba, he goes to the body. He throws low kicks. He's very hook heavy. I would like to see more straight punches. I would like to see more of a jab. I would like to see a safer game plan because he doesn't move his head very well either. But he is the bigger guy, the better athlete, the more explosive fighter. He's had a full camp. Cuamba's coming in on short notice. I have to go with the legit athlete, the legit lightweight, and I'm picking Oki by decision. This is missing from a lot of from betting books, but Oki is about minus 200 where he exists, and Cuamba's a plus 160 where he exists. I'm going to avoid betting on this fight. I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. These are two guys that I actually think are really good to come off of Contender Series. Loma Lookboonmee versus Bruna Brazil is a really, 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 really easy fight. Loma Lookboonmee is better. She is smaller. That's the dynamic. She is the better kicker, the better puncher, the better grappler, the better takedown artist, the better clinch fighter, the better everything. Brazil's just got power, reach, size, probably strength. I'm going with Lookboonmee by decision. I will take the technician over the person who's just big. And not like even a phenomenal athlete. Like it's not like Bruna Brazil is like this big specimen. And it's not like Loma Lookboonmee is a lackluster athlete. It's just she's an atom weight. Brazil is relatively big, 5'6". Like 5'6", you see that up at 135 without like batting an eye. 2 weight classes higher. She could be tall enough. Wouldn't be big enough to be clear, but like she'd be tall enough. I've got Lookboonmee by decision. If she loses, I'm going to be sad because I can't help but think that like if she does lose, it's just going to be because she's too small. Lookboonmee by decision. She's minus 260 to minus 278, plus 196 to plus 225 for Brazil. Too wide for me to bet on Lookboonmee. I wouldn't touch her as a favorite at those odds. Devin Clark versus Marcin Prachnio. I hate this fight. Because these are two guys who have their place at 205. I want to be clear on that because they both are very definitive tests. They ask a very specific set of questions. Devin Clark is a swing and cling guy. He has a little bit of pocket boxing that he uses to get to the clinch and try to wrestle you to the mat. If you are a guy who's never fought that before, it's pretty interesting and pretty neat to test it out because he's very, very durable. And Marcin Prachnio is an evasive sort of karate style range guy who is 6'3" and therefore is a nice test against anyone who hasn't had to deal with that before. The problem is that these are two guys in their 30s. They're not to be tested. They should be getting, they are the test, not the tested. So why are we doing this? This fight has two very clear dynamics. Dynamic one, Prachnio is able to keep the range, work his kicking game, work his jab, and keep it kind of like a low, simmer, not high-pace kickboxing match that he just wins after 15 minutes. The other option is Devin Clark crushes him against the cage and either TKOs him with ground and pound or for 15 minutes just keeps bullying him around the cage. I'm going to go with Devin Clark by decision. It's not going to be a good fight. It's not going to be a fun fight. Why is it happening? Clark minus 200 to minus 250. Prachnio plus 165 to plus 190. I wouldn't bet on it. I'm very not big on Prachnio. I think I think any hype he has is just not deserved. Like it's here is UFC wins. Stick with me for a moment here. Khalil Roundtree in a fight where Roundtree just fought terribly. Just was terrible. Ike Villanueva, who is decidedly unathletic, and William Knight. He has lost to Sam Alvey in 2018. Magomed Ankalaev, no shame there. Mike Rodriguez, Felipe Lins, Vitor Petrino. He's not good. I'm not saying Devin Clark is at all because, he's lost pretty easily to Kenny Nzechukwu, Azat Mirzakhanov, Ian Kutalaba, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spawn, basically almost anyone that's athletic. But he has a couple of bright spots. He has a win over Jake Collier when he was in shape. He has a win over Mike Rodriguez, who's not bad. He has a win over Alonzo Menafield in a style of fight that Menafield generally is good at. He has a win over Da Un Jung. It's just a waste. I don't get it. Anyways, Jeremiah Wells, Max Griffin, pretty happy for this fight. I like both guys. I like Griffin a lot more. I really want Griffin to be better, but I think the problem was he took up MMA a little bit too late. Like he's 37 years old. Or 38 years old, pardon me. Wells is 37, so the same could be said. Wells is pretty simple. He is a short muscle tank who is going to come forward. He is going to throw heavy hooks. He is going to look for the clinch. He's going to look to swing and cling. Kind of playing the Devin Clark role, frankly. And then on the ground, he is going to beat you up with ground and pound and look for power subs. And somehow, despite this physique looking the way he does, he keeps the pace up. Man went 15 minutes with Matthew Semmelsberger and did not seem to get that tired. It's kind of amazing. Max Griffin sometimes has some great game plans. I remember the Mike Perry fight. And also Ramiz Brahima. Not a great fighter by any means, but a guy that I was how's Max Griffin going to actually tackle this? And he came up with some interesting ways of doing it. But he also, he will clinch. He fell victim to the Neil Magny fun. I'm going with Wells by decision. Griffin is exceedingly tough, but I don't see him denying Wells the fight that Wells wants. And even though Wells really needs that fight to win, it's a fight that he generally wins. He did get submitted by Carlson Harris last time out, so I don't know. Maybe there's hope. But I am going with Wells. He is the favorite, minus 155 to minus 170. Griffin's plus 130 to plus 140. If I do bet on that fight, it will be on Griffin. But we'll see. Then we have Zach Palga versus Bogdan Gushkov, which is not good. Gushkov, a.k.a. Uzbek Anthony Smith, not very good. He's a blunt hammer. He comes out there. He's a bully. He's got power. He's got strength, whatever. But he has little consideration for defense. He does fade. Palga's really, really tough, has good cardio, trains with Elevation Fight Team, even though it hasn't really produced much in the way of like actually good technique. Like he's a good athlete. Like he really should be more than an NFL level athlete. And he's at a good gym. And he's got the right mindset and stuff. But his wins are just not very good. I am going to pick him to win a decision here. Like Gushkov probably maybe takes the first round and then just kind of falls apart. I don't know. I'm not interested in this fight. It's not a good fight. There you go. Pauga favored at minus 125 to minus 140. Gushkov plus 104 to plus 115. There you go. Hyder Amil versus Fernie Garcia. Fernie's back. This is the third different opponent that Hyder Amil has had to prepare for. He was supposed to fight, I forget if it was first Shailen Nurumbeke or Melsik Bagdasaryan, but it was one of them. Then it was the other, and now it's Fernie Garcia. I don't actually think Hyder Amil is necessarily all that good. A lot of his longer fights tend to be like brought up with the idea of like he just kind of runs out of ideas. It's the reason he has 2 splitties on the regional scene. But he is a really good athlete. Like he's powerful, he can wrestle, he can strike. He's kind of always going forward, constant aggression. And Garcia is coming up to 145 for 135, and physicality has been a big issue for him there. He's been bullied by the likes of Brady Easton, Journey Newsom, and Shinya Nakamura. Now, to be clear, Nakamura very, very good. Nakamura is very good. But like that Brady Easton one, that's particularly concerning. I just see Hyder Amil pressuring him into the cage, getting takedowns, letting his hands go, letting loose. And Garcia, despite the fact that Amil's very hittable, very poor defensively, Garcia's a guy that doesn't really have a lot of power, doesn't have a lot of explosiveness to him, doesn't have a lot of the natural abilities to punish that. So I'm going to go with Amil by decision. He is a minus 175 to minus 205 favorite. Garcia's plus 145 to plus 170. I think a lot of these fights, I'm picking a lot of guys I'm like just shaky on, but like I also am pretty confident are going to win, and they're getting favorite odds, and I'm just not going to touch it, honestly. I feel like at the end of the day, I'm just going to have like next to no bets on this card. Like, what am I betting on? Betting on Rodolfo Vieira, and that's about it. Actually, I'll probably place a bet on this opener. Daniel Marcos versus Arichi Lang. I like Marcos. I did think he lost to Davy Grant. A lot of people did. Man is snake bit. He had fights canceled in November and December. But he's still like this fun, like low kicking guy, like relatively well structured kickboxer, good volume, not a lot of power necessarily, but like pretty fast, pretty quick, pretty spatially aware. And Arichi Lang is a guy who beats dudes who are just like really unstructured. Johnny Muniz, guy who has a good jab and a good guard game and like nothing else. Cameron Else, who has aggressive sub grappling, but like bad defensive grappling and like is just going to give up position to Arichi Lang. And then like Jay Perron, who is structured, I guess, but there's a reason they gave him to Raul Rosas Jr. to send him out of the UFC. He's just kind of a bottom of the barrel athlete with a non-specialist game. I don't know. I think Marcos is like athletic enough, fast enough, quick on his feet enough to just kind of not allow Arichi Lang to get like easy takedowns or easy dominant positions on the ground. Arichi Lang's stand-up is powerful, but pretty non-effective, honestly, when it comes down to it. Against anybody who's like particularly defensively sound, Marcos is pretty defensively sound. He survived 15 minutes with Davy Grant. It says something. Marcos by decision. Should be a fun fight. Not necessarily one that's going to prove a lot, but should be a fun fight. He's minus 230 to minus 265. Arichi Lang is plus 185 to plus 210. That's the card. Is it a good card? Not really. It lacks like one fight that I'm really that like should really bring people in. Like, don't get me wrong, Dan Ige and Fili is a good fight. Joe Pyfer's got that casual appeal. But it falls off pretty bad after that. There's a lot of fights I'm going to probably enjoy watching, but it's like there's a difference between like knowing I'm going to enjoy them and looking forward to them. I think that's the struggle of this card. But by the standards of Apex cards, fairly decent. I just wish they would get away from the middleweight main events, man. Jeez. It's not a good division. Can we stop? Can we please stop? We had Dolidze versus Imavov. We had Strickland Duplessis. And now we've got this. And then, we are heading to good things on February 17th. We are heading to Volkanovski versus Topuria, the UFC 298 card. Looking forward to it. Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa, Volkanovski versus Topuria, Fili versus Henry Cejudo, Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary, Roman Kopylov versus Anthony Hernandez. Not really sure why that's on a pay-per-view main card, but still a good fight. Kind of falls off after that. The undercard is a little weak. I am looking forward to Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern, though. That's fun. And Rinya Nakamura back against... The problem is it's Carlos Vera. He's just going to kind of run over him. But, it's there. Andrea Lee versus Miranda Maverick, I guess, is okay. Anyways, that's the fight card. Please check out the links down below or wherever the description are to the social media and the Discord server, as well as the video game stuff. If you're a little bit nerdy, check out the Discord server. We do a fight simulator there. It's a lot of fun. And we got a Bloody Mania card coming up this month where no holds barred, anything goes. Let it happen. You can challenge for the open weight title, man or woman. There you go. Anyways, without anything further wasting your time, thank you for listening. I will talk to you after the fights.